Hi guys, Blade Check 101 here. I'm going to do a different kind of knife review today. I want to go over a very specific type of knife. Um, you all know it, you all love it, the Swiss Army knife. And particularly, I'm going to go into Victorinox as the knife company of choice for Swiss Army knives. They are the original. They are, the sole supplier to the Swiss Army, which is always kind of cool. Um, Now, some of you may have problems with, it's not made, that they're a Swiss company as opposed to like Case and stuff like that. And I'll kind of get into why I prefer Victorinox overall. Now, I love Case knives. I really, really do. However, if you need anything like a screwdriver or scissors or a toothpick or, I mean, anything like that, you cannot beat Victorinox. Um, where a Case will really just fall short on that because all they really have is a knife. And great knives, fantastic and collectible, very, very collectible. But you get all that also with Victorinox. I have just a few of my Victorinoxes right here with me, and I'm going to go over them, a couple of them. I don't have all of them because I'm going camping pretty soon, and I have a lot of them packed away ready for that. So, starting off, why would we carry a Victorinox Swiss Army knife over, anything else really? But why carry one? Um, First of all, they're legal almost everywhere. The only places, of course, are where just knives in general are illegal, like airports, federal buildings, that kind of thing. Um, but when we get into if you're going into like a city where, or overseas, for example, where a regular, tactical knife or a fixed blade is not legal, abide by the law and carry something that is. But that still gives you the use of a knife or whatever other tools necessary. Also, whether you are ever in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, or if you're just an aspiring gentleman, to carry a Victorinox or just a Swiss Army knife is just a really great option to do so in today's society. If you have a lot of different chores throughout the day that you find could be a lot easier with, an added tool, then, you might have something there where you might find that a Swiss Army knife is really the way to go. One knife that I started carrying, and I carry every so often, like especially if I'm going to a wedding or something like that, or if I'm going to a job interview or anything like that, is, and because I have a girlfriend, I carry it all the time now, especially, is the Classic, Victorinox Classic SD. Now, this is just a real small, you can see it's incredibly small, little knife with the small blade on it. This is good for like sharpening pens and sharpening pencils and things like that. A couple little chores here and there, cutting some strands or whatever. This one is one that my girlfriend uses a lot if she breaks a nail or anything. The nail file, which is really quite useful. And it's also got a little Phillips head on there too, a 3mm Phillips head, or not Phillips head, a flathead, excuse me. And the little scissors. These are great for cutting, little strands of clothing, cutting coupons, whatever you have, And of course, the toothpick and the pliers are a great option on here too. The Swiss Army knife, the Victorinox logo is different from the others. You'll see some others that are just kind of generic, but this is this Victorinox one. It's the shield, particularly with the cross. With the Swiss cross in it. So, we already went over why would we carry one. Now, which one do we carry? Well, again, go throughout. I usually take a week. If I find that the knife that I'm carrying is not doing it for me, what I do is I go for a week. And I try to figure out what tools within that kind of time, maybe a month, you know, depending on what your week is like or whatever, you go through that time period and figure out what tools would serve you every day, or at least often. You know, if you find that you're forgetting a pen all the time, but that you always have your Swiss Army knife on you, get one with a pen. You know, get the signature. Get you know, just anything that, you know, any of those that have a pen. If you find that you need a flashlight a lot, get one with a flashlight. They even have some with a clock or a flash drive for your computer. All kinds of options. So keep in mind that with what you're carrying, you know, you need to have the tool that you need. You know, otherwise you're just carrying added weight, and what's the point in doing that if it's not going to do any good to you? What I started carrying when I was younger was the Recruit. The Recruit is a real simple design. It's thin, it's really, really lightweight. It's got the large blade, the small blade, the bottle opener, can opener, and the little screwdrivers and everything that those have. And that's basically all I needed, because I started getting into whittling. I read a book about whittling, and the author of the book suggested, you know, Victorinox, or you know, the Swiss Army knife, a small Swiss Army knife, as your option. Of course, there is just the Pocket Pal, which is essentially just a pen knife designed for, you know, whittling, you know, sharpening pencils and that kind of thing. And that's great because it's a great little whittler if that's all you need. All you need is a large blade and a small blade, and that's it. Go for it. That's all you need. But if you have need for other things, like I needed a screwdriver, so I went to the Super Tinker, because I also found that I was needing scissors. And instead of carrying, you know, the classic with the scissors and another thing, I just decided to go with the one with bigger scissors, more uses for them, and the screwdriver. So, you know, your plan for the knife really evolves as you are going through. Now, the other really neat part of having a Swiss Army knife is the fact that, you know, you can, first of all, you can carry this with you almost anywhere. And I use all, you know, whichever one I'm carrying, I always use it for things like paring an apple. I use it for, you know, just light food prep like that. I use it for cutting boxes. The design of the knife on a Victorinox, we have a full flat grind, a drop point, making it very civilian friendly. This thing, it doesn't look like a harmful knife. In fact, many state laws in the United States specify that no pocket knife with a non-locking blade shall be viewed as a weapon. So, you know, having something like that where you can still cut things, this is not a tactical knife at all. You know, you put any pressure on the back of that blade and it's going to close on you, and with authority too. You can hear that snap, how it just kind of, that'll hurt, especially with how sharp these things are. The small blade is awesome for cutting cardboard. Absolutely phenomenal. I go to work with one of these, and they have box cutters that they distribute. I never have one, so I always have this thing with me, and I always just, I'm able to zip right through really, really thick cardboard with this. As well as, you know, if we have a jacket that we have to wear, little pieces of clothing, if I'm carrying my my Super Tinker, snip, you know, I just cut it off, and we're good to go. Also, people are always coming up to me needing things like a screwdriver. For some reason, I don't know. I'm not a maintenance guy at all. But I always have, you know, one on me anyway. And I always need it. You know, I always need it for stuff. Also, I went to the DMV once, and a guy needed to remove his license plates. He didn't know that he had to do that beforehand, and he had no screwdriver, obviously, with him. And so we asked around, do you have a screwdriver? Do you have a screwdriver? And I heard him asking, so I went up to him and I said, I have, you know, this. And he was like, oh, perfect. So, you know, we went out and he helped me out or I helped him out that way. And, you know, it's kind of nice to be able to do that. And as a gentleman, you know, you strive to be able to handle every situation to the best of your ability that way. And having a Swiss Army knife doesn't ensure that every situation you'll ever run into will be taken care of. However, having one of these for such a small package and a huge number of tasks it can accomplish is well worth having it. You know, and as opposed to just having a regular, you know, folding tactical, like, all right, if I were to pull that out of a post office, I'd probably turn some heads, especially with the sound. You know, yes, you can do it real quietly, but having a big knife like that, it's not a really big knife, but it does kind of scare people at times. Instead, having a little recruit, no one's gonna think twice about that. It's a Swiss Army knife. Everyone knows what it is. It may not be made here. You know, we may not be the originators of the Swiss Army knife. However, it's kind of ingrained in our culture that men and some women carry a pocket knife, and that's okay. You know, it does not lock, so be careful of your fingers and all that. But it's an awesome design to have. You know, and the one thing I would personally change about Swiss Army knives is the grip. I really, really wish that they would put some sort of texturing, because they're so slick. And yes, they're very nice looking, especially when they come in black. I think that's just like sharp. It looks really nice. But you know, when it comes like this, it looks really, really nice. And they have so many different designs now to be added to this that, you know, that's really cool. But that's the one thing I would change personally, is I would have a grippier handle material. Maybe just a rubber insert or something like that, because like when I'm whittling, if I have my cutting glove on, it's essentially fabric. So having that real slick handle, because if I'm doing this, like with my thumb, trying to bring the wood close, you know, trying to bring the knife through the wood to my thumb, I don't want to slip because I have a real slick glove on. So that kind of thing. Also in the wintertime, that's going to be a kind of a pain, but that's really my only gripe about that, about the Swiss Army knife in general. The knife that I'm carrying a lot now is the Huntsman, and it's an awesome blade. It's got the scissors, and it has a saw, which I tend to use mostly for my whittling, or if I'm going outdoors. This is what I'll carry. I usually either carry the Hiker or the Super Tinker, depending on my daily needs. This has basically everything that does, except for the screwdriver, and the small screwdriver on this actually kind of takes care of a lot of Phillips head as well. So the saw is an awesome thing for me to have on there. So, you know, pick out your daily needs, go find the one that you need, and, you know, have a great time with it. And this is a cool thing that you can hand down from generation to generation, and that's really neat too. But if you guys have any questions about, you know, Victorinox or Swiss Army knives or whatever, leave me a question in the comment section. If you have any requests for any of the Victorinox knives, if I have it or if I can get it, I'll do a review for you. So just let me know, and have a great day. Thanks for watching the video, and see ya.